I had some, significant mental health issues in university. I moved to Manchester, thought I was going to take on the world. The world kind of took me on, and I found myself struggling to really define what I was going to become. Didn't have role models in the fields that I was wanting to work in, and didn't really have the tools, the emotional intelligence, or the ability to navigate some of the challenges that I was going through. So for me, that was kind of the start of my self-awareness journey. And 15 years later, I'm still learning every day. I'm still kind of unwrapping different aspects, because society that we live in today, there's a lot of influences. There's a lot of things that can impact us and pull us around. But self-awareness is an ability to appreciate how that's impacting you, and a chance for you to actually take a step back, reflect, create a bit of space, and make more empowered decisions and choices in life.
Amos Madra.
Lee Chambers, psychologist, entrepreneur, broadcaster, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining us here today. So, self-awareness, what is that? And were you always self-aware growing up?
To be honest, Amos, no, I think self-awareness is a real journey. And if I kind of reflect on my childhood, I mean, kids are kind of self-aware, but completely lacking in self-awareness at the same time. And making that kind of adolescent to adult transition for me at university, I realised how unself-aware that I actually was when I was trying to define what I was in the world. I had some, significant mental health issues in university. I moved to Manchester, thought I was going to take on the world. The world kind of took me on, and I found myself struggling to really define what I was going to become. Didn't have role models in the fields that I was wanting to work in, and didn't really have the tools, the emotional intelligence, or the ability to navigate some of the challenges that I was going through. So for me, that was kind of the start of my self-awareness journey. And 15 years later, I'm still learning every day. I'm still kind of unwrapping different aspects, because society that we live in today, there's a lot of influences. There's a lot of things that can impact us and pull us around. But self-awareness is an ability to appreciate how that's impacting you, and a chance for you to actually take a step back, reflect, create a bit of space, and make more empowered decisions and choices in life.
Incredible. I think there's just so much we can take from that. And I think that's the challenge, isn't it? We all have these dreams, we want to do things, and sometimes it doesn't happen to the pace that we would like it to happen, or maybe not as big as maybe we would have dreamt for it to have happened. But it's that self-reflection and taking stock of where things are. Is it, being realistic with yourself, or, can we still have those ambitions? Or, how do you go about telling a young person, I want to be a singer, for instance? How do you try and coach them through that?
Yeah, I think a big thing, Amos, is firstly to help people look at the gain rather than the gap. A lot of people, they go off on a journey and they want to get somewhere big. Big ambitions and dreams are important. We need a target as human beings to move towards. If we don't have that target, if we don't have that dream, we become aimless. And aimless is never a good place to be, because that's when we kind of end up with other people choosing our pathway for us. And that can sometimes lead us into places where we don't want to go, kind of conforming to society and not being ourselves. So I kind of tell, the next generation, have those dreams, but also know that, when I was a kid, I thought, oh, I'd love to play video games for a career. It didn't exist. It does now. And the future, as they grow up, the things that they might want to be that today might not appear possible, or people say, you can't make a living out of that. You might well be able to in 10 years, but it's not what you want to be. It's the skills you need to build to become that. And those same skills could be used to potentially do something else. So looking at the gain that you've made rather than the gap to where you are helps you to see that it is a journey. But there's also a big part as well around, having that belief. And I find especially, for young Black people, they need to be able to see people who've been on that journey, see them prominently, whether it's in the media, whether it's in sport, whether it's in business, whether it's in science, to be able to think, yeah, I can achieve that, because belief so often comes from vision. And crafting that vision to know a direction to move in sometimes actually requires you to be able to see what you can become. So I say, the dreams and beliefs are important. Don't just become so one dimensional. That's the only thing, because it will be the skills that you build. And those skills might, end up with you doing something else you enjoy. Also, for me, my version of success when I was younger was proving people wrong. Now my version of success is actually empowering other people. So I've gone for a complete shift in what I thought was success and what I wanted to become. And you don't, and probably will never have it all worked out. So have your dreams. Don't completely, don't completely navigate the world like that's the only thing that you can become. You're a human being. You can become so many things. In fact, in the world we're in, you can probably have 5 different careers in your lifetime and impact 5 different parts of the world. So dream big, make it happen, but do the work.
Absolutely. That is so inspiring. It's just so good. I just knew this interview was going to be fantastic, and straight away we were off to the races here. You seem to have an underlying factor that drives you. What is that thing? Because you've got the same drive, the same passion, the same energy, but you've transitioned it in a different way from wanting to be the best to wanting to see the best in people. What is that underlying driving factor that pushes you every day?
Yeah, so it's changed again throughout my life. When I was a kid, it was around showcasing what I could do, because my parents, told me my mum had been in care in Salford, my dad, born to Windrush generation, migrants, my grandparents, and they met as teenagers and had me when they were teenagers. I was a bit of a surprise, but they always wanted me to do well. So I was fueled by wanting to do well for my parents and, use their platform that they'd given me to do great things to showcase what I could do to my younger brothers in the community. When I graduated, I went out into industry, but got spat back out in the recession. And I wanted to build a business, but I was told by, a rather wealthy and successful person in Manchester at the time that I was going to struggle building a business because I was black, I was young, I had an attitude problem, didn't have a network or any funding or resources. So I actually built that business and grew it across Europe, but it was all built on the underlying factor that I wanted to prove people wrong, to prove people that I could. And that was powerful fuel for being able to achieve. But it's also a negative energy. It made me, learn less. It made me more tunnel vision. It made me not help other people in the way that I could have. And it was when I lost the ability to walk, spent a year learning to walk again, lost my independence, lost my mobility, and had to reflect on life. I realized actually the most enjoyable parts of my life when I was helping other people. And every time I did that, I felt good. So now that drives me every day. I wake up knowing that the work that I do, whether it's through my business, whether it's through the speaking, whether it's through the mentoring, or whether it's through the programs that we run out in communities, I know that I'm touching people in a positive way. I'm able to spread positive messages. People have given me a platform to do that, but I can positively impact other people. And I wake up in the morning not knowing who might hear something that I do, who might read my story in somewhere, who might hear and listen to this show. I don't know who's going to be impacted. But if one person every day of my life goes off and, does something great because they feel like they can and they feel like they've been empowered to do so, and they take a more positive pathway in their life, then, that's 365 people a year, maybe even more, who knows? But that I wake up in the morning knowing that I can do something great, I can make a difference. And I'm, gradually building a bit of a legacy, not when I'm 60 and when I'm retired, but every single day for the people around me, for my children, for the next generation, and for anyone who I come into contact with.
An absolute noble cause. And, the best part of that is how you've used positivity and you've made a huge impact as a result in comparison to, the Mamba mentality, if you want to call it that, I want to be number one. Which has its place, you need that little bit of a chip on your shoulder, but ultimately it's positivity that's going to win. So, when you look at today's generation, especially young people, they're certainly very ambitious. They want to achieve a lot, but that positivity doesn't play the impact, perhaps, that it could do. And I think hearing your story changes that narrative. Talk to us about the power of positivity, why we should embrace it, and, why we can do so much more being positive, because you're not trying to get, you're releasing, and through releasing you're getting back even more.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to kind of appreciate that. Firstly, positivity is important, but it's not everything. If you're pretending to be positive when things are really challenging, like they are at the minute, then you're almost kidding yourself. And that's as dangerous as being negative sometimes. So it's about having that optimism for the future, believing that you can, and gradually building that in steps. Because, like we said, a lot of people see that musician out on the stage in a stadium of 20,000 fans. They don't see that 5 years ago they were busking on a street corner or in a pub, doing a gig to like 10 people. Never see the backstory and realize that actually everyone who's come to prominence has put an awful lot of hours into that. So it's about appreciating that actually you do need that positivity to keep going, because when you start any kind of pursuit, you're right at the beginning and you're gradually building up those different aspects. Obviously, using that positivity in a way to realize that the world is abundant. There are opportunities out there, but if you've got your head down, you can't see those opportunities. And quite often it's about having your head up, even when you are having a challenging time, because, even in difficulty, there is opportunity. And even in change, there's a chance to make a difference. And, for many entrepreneurs now, it's a recession. Times are really difficult. It's a time when kind of the future leaders step forward and say, these are difficult times, but these are times when we can really show the community what they can achieve. These are times when we can actually lead. And, the best leaders out there, Amos, they want difficult times. It helps to prove that they can do things. And, my life has been full of ups and downs, but actually my biggest learnings have been when I've been in a really difficult place. When I had mental health challenges, when I was made redundant, when I lost the ability to walk, my growth has come in those times. And the most important thing is to keep some positivity there as you navigate those times, and really realize that actually sometimes positivity, when you use it really well, can be a really powerful driver of opening up the doors that you want to move in front of. But also, just sometimes appreciate that, being positive all the time, you need healthy competition. You need a bit of healthy conflict. You need to be challenged. And when you kind of open yourself up to supporting other people and realizing that, it's not just you, no man is an island. And as soon as you kind of realize that there are times when you need to take a bit of time for yourself, that's not selfish, but trying to do everything on your own, we're a species. There's 9 billion people on this planet. We've got to collaborate, we've got to come together. We're much more powerful when we link arms and march forward and make things happen, rather than trying to take everything on our own. And sometimes our society is pretty individualistic, but if there's one thing about the next generation, they're coming together, Amos, and they're willing to call out things that aren't right. And I love that. They're asking those questions, they're challenging those companies. We need more of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's certainly time for change. Things do have to change. Thankfully, we're starting to see a little bit of that, but we've got to keep the momentum going, strike while the iron's hot. And as you said, be the example to those young people coming up, just to show to them that it is possible. If you put your mind to something, it can happen for you. When I go back to the days where you were struggling with your mental health, you had issues in terms of your business, and then also your mobility issues as well. I can just imagine, in those dark days, it must have felt at some points like, will this ever end? Will this come to a stop? When you look back in hindsight now, you can look at it in rose tinted windows, but at the time, I can imagine, the difficulties to just unsure of what's going to happen. Talk to us about that period and how you broke through, how you pushed through.
Yeah, I think a massive thing is this is where the aspect around positivity is important, because you have to appreciate that, when I lost the ability to walk, my first thoughts were like, oh crap, like I can't move. Why me? Why now? This ain't fair. There wasn't any positive in my way out of that. I had to feel that. I had to feel that, that difficulty. And where the the kind of progress came is after a month in hospital, I had to accept it. I had to say, look, this ain't good. I wish this hadn't have happened, but guess what? It has. I can't control it. But what can I control? I can control my recovery. I can control my physio. I can control my rehab. I can control and try and do what I can. And I had a powerful driver, Amos. My son were 18 months old when I went into hospital, and my daughter was born when I was in walking rehab. I was determined to get walking so I could play with my kids. I was determined to get on my feet so I could take my daughter's first steps with her. And you know what, Amos? When you have a bigger purpose, and when you have someone else you're accountable to, someone else you're doing it for, it's incredibly powerful. And I realized I had to accept what had happened. And the only way I was going to, get through that was to really commit and take full ownership over my recovery. It was when I had those mental health challenges, security came and took me home. Someone else had to come and get me into a place where I was safe and I could start to look after myself a bit more. So often it's other people, whether they're the ones supporting us or they're the ones giving us the reason to keep going. And in those difficult times, you almost have to kind of just come to a place of acceptance that this is where it is. These are things I can't control, but what can I control? Because to gain a hold of something in really difficult times, it's like the ship sinking, but you've got a life jacket and a dinghy to hold on to. And you know what? Once you float off and get back to the shore, you've learned lessons about yourself. You can go and take them back to the people, build boats differently. Don't make them sink. But it's like, every time you go through that, it's difficult, and you have to find a way to process those negative emotions healthfully, in a healthy way, write them down, speak to people, again, don't bottle it all up, because at some point it will come back, and it's always worse when you hold that in. And you know what? It's hard to speak sometimes, but you've got to find ways to express those. Otherwise, you'll be carrying them around on your back for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And I think for me, the biggest takeaway from that is just, not, I mean, it has happened, accept that what's happened's happened. It is what it is. Try and find a good in it, try and find a positive in it, find a reason to, push you through and just take action. And it seems that, you were doing things, whether it was the way you were thinking, surrounding yourself with the right people, because sometimes the right people are there, but it's being able to recognize that. And that goes back to what you teach, is that awareness and understanding. I've got these people around me. I can use these people to help me through this situation, and just taking action in that sense and seeing things happen. It's not going to happen overnight, but gradually. It's just consistency with it, and you certainly proved that. And I think that's that's what makes you unique, and that's what makes you who you are. How can we learn this, and how can we take that lesson and apply that to our own lives? What can we do today?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, Amos, is people need to sit down and take a minute in their busy lives to reflect on what they've overcome. Because it's easy for me to talk about learning to walk again, having mental health issues and getting through them, being made redundant and setting up a business. It's easy for me. That's my lived experience. But every single person who's listening to this has been through stuff. Even if it's only getting through the pandemic and still being here to this day to listen, you've all overcome things. Sit down, reflect on those. How did you do it? Because when we consider about what we've overcome, what we've achieved, and how we've done it, there's lessons in there. There's lessons that we can take for next time it happens. Every time you get knocked down, people say, oh, you need to get back up and keep going. You do, but every time you need to get knocked down, you need to think, how did I get knocked down? Why did it happen? Is there anything I can learn from it? Either from why I got knocked down or how I got back up. And those are the things that you can take with you. Those are the life lessons that will help you when times get bad again, because they will. Life is like, they tell you in school and when you're a kid that your life's going to be like a straight line, gradually growing and getting better and better, like a graph, yeah, all the way up, as you get older and wiser. But life ain't like that. Life's like a heartbeat, it's like an ECG. It's ups and downs. You're constantly going up and then you fall down again, and then you back up again. And you know what, Amos? If your life was a flat line, like some people think, you'd be dead. So ultimately, life is like a heartbeat. Reflect on the times when you were down in that dip. What did you do? How did you navigate it? Because those are the times that if you then use them when you're on one of those peaks, you'll be and find yourself in such a powerful place. You'll be able to achieve great things. But also when you're ending the next dip, you'll have your head up, looking to the next thing you're going to climb instead of sitting in that trench, wondering why life's done what it's done to you. So take that time, reflect on what you've overcome, and then start to see again how you accepted it, how you really took ownership of the things you could control, and how you can do that in the future. Because it's so easy sometimes to blame other people, but actually we control our inner environment in our minds, we control our environment and our support network, and quite often we have an ability to change that for the better. But reflecting and spending some time to just look at that, we can, again, every human is amazing. It's just about sometimes finding a way to unlock that and make it happen.
This is so good. It's in our greatest pain that we'll find our greatest strength. Thank you so much. Wow. So, and I know you're busy. I know you got so much coming up. What can we expect from you over the next couple of months, years?
I'll take more stages, Amos. I'll spread more messages of positivity. Built, a number of platforms, things that are coming that are going to, provide more opportunities to underprivileged communities. Working and built a kind of an accelerator for young Black girls and neurodivergent Black people in STEM to help them move from that graduate process and get the opportunities. Offering a book. So you know what? I'm relentless. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Going to keep opening those opportunities. Going to keep supporting other people, empowering those to do great things. And yeah, you know what, Amos? It's a journey. But once we're on that pathway, this train ain't stopping, and we're going to continue to do great things, just like you do on your show, just like all the people that you speak to. Everyone's doing great things, and it's just about bringing all those people together. And last week, I got inducted into the Black Cultural Archives in Brixton with 41 other Black leaders in the fields. And you know what? Bring the 40 of us together. We're going to do some amazing things together as well. So it's exciting times, but ultimately, it's about empowering the next generation to be able to realize that potential, to be able to shape the world so it is a better place for everyone, and to really start to see, you know what, the change I want to see might not happen in my lifetime, but can I plant those seeds and water them with the right people to really change the world for the better?
Absolutely. Lee Chambers, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. We wish you all the best. We know that there's great things yet to come. You're doing great work. Thank you for being a great influence and doing so much good in the community and helping so many people. We celebrate you for that. Thank you.
Thank you again, Amos.
If you want some amazing inspiration, check out the videos next to me, and I'll see you right there.